For this video, you should be in your notebook titled Measuring Waves Part 2, that page. And with this one, I'm encouraging you to try to do this yourself. Find like a chain or something that you can do this with, like a necklace that you have, and try this out at home because this will really help you feel it and see what's going on. But what we did is we had a chain, and then we had some tape down on the floor, and we also used a stopwatch at one point. And first what I had them do under 1 and 2 is just kind of make some waves, and then under number 2 they just froze and drew something. So I'm going to make some waves, and then I would freeze. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to get it going. And I would say freeze. Okay, so they would draw what they saw, and I'm going to try to get you. So they would draw something that they saw, and everyone's was different. And then for most kids, what they saw was something like this. They would see bigger waves going down to like nothing because it wouldn't even go down. Just kind of depended on how big of waves you made. So just draw either what you see here, which again is kind of hard to get you to see the whole thing. Okay. And so then I just kind of had them practice. So just make some waves for numbers 3 and 4 at the bottom of the page. You can kind of see 3s and 4. I just said practice. Make waves. Any waves you want. You're going to measure the wavelength and the amplitude of each wave. So you're going to make a wave and freeze, measure, make a wave and freeze, measure, make a wave and freeze, measure. And then they had to find the average of the 3. So they would add it up and divide by 3. Okay? So I just told them, again, they could make any wave. So I suggest you really try this at home. Okay? And then in order to do that, the waves are not going to come out perfect. So what I told them to do is find someplace, and it's usually at the beginning, where you can kind of see some high bumps. Like you kind of see a high bump here and a high bump here. So they had a piece of tape on the floor. I don't. I just have kind of a line in my grout. So I kind of let them just play around with it because it's not going to come out perfect. These two crests is how you would measure wavelength. So I said, just go ahead and measure wavelength. So they would go ahead and take their ruler, measure wavelength, and this one is about 12.5 centimeters. So they just did it in centimeters. This one's in 12.5 centimeters. And then I said, go ahead from the little center line. So I have like a piece of tape on the ground that they would measure. And this one's about, the amplitude is 2 centimeters. So then they would go in their notebook and they would write that down. So we said the wavelength was 12 for wave 1 and the amplitude was 2. And then they would just do it a couple more times. So I'm not going to write down this data. I would suggest either you try it on your own or get the data from your group to see what they came up with, just so you know how to do it. But at least you would get that idea. So I will write down the first one just so you see as an example. Okay, so we had measured a wavelength of 12 from crest to crest and amplitude of 2. And then you do that 2 more times, and then you would find the average of the amplitude and the average of the wavelength. All right, so I would pause and do that. If you've got some kind of chain at home, that would really help, in a ruler. All right, then on page 30, so on page 30, I did not like how this was written up. So what I did is I had them change the top. Okay, so change the top. So the box under number 6, I said do a fast, a slow, and just a normal wave. And then down the bottom, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, change that to fast, slow, and normal. And now they were only going to measure wavelength. So they were going to draw, freeze, they were going to do it fast. And they would draw fast, and they would measure wavelength for fast. And they would do it slow, draw, measure wavelength. Then they do normal, freeze, draw normal, and measure normal. So I'll give you an example. So here's fast again. We're on the line. And I'm going to go really fast. Okay? And you have to do it a few times, I will tell you. And because you got to have to get enough. I mean, because look at this. So here I have, and I can push this down a little bit. I went really fast. So now I have a wavelength of like 4 centimeters, and that's all. I didn't say to do amplitude. So under fast, I can write 4 centimeters. Okay? And then if you draw it, you're going to see lots of little bumps right in a row. So I told them to draw it. Okay. Then they were going to do a slow. Now this one's going to be harder to do on video. Because I kind of still have to do it somewhat fast to get some waves. All right. So if you use the kind of the top of my chain where my hand was, and you can kind of see it, and I'm sorry if you can't really see it. You can kind of see it there. There's your wavelength. So I'm going to take my ruler and measure from the top here. And I can't even get all the way over. Well, each ruler is 30 centimeters. So I'm going to make a mark and measure some more, and I get about 34 centimeter wavelength for my slow. And if you draw it, you'll notice you get a lot longer wavelength. It kind of goes like that. So hopefully you got something like that. Okay, then we're just going to do a normal. So I'm not going real fast, I'm not going real slow, but faster than I was, okay? So here's a good one, okay? So if you look here, I don't know if you can see it very well, you can kind of tell that that wave is coming back down. It's kind of hard to see it, but it's coming back down. So now you have a wavelength to measure from crest to crest. So in a normal, I got about the length of the ruler, so that's 30 centimeters. And if you draw it, you actually get waves that are pretty much closer together. So you get something like that. 30 centimeters, normal, and then, so if you put it all together, hopefully you can kind of see it all together, you can see the fast waves, the waves are really close together. The slow waves is really far apart, and the normal's kind of in between. And so look at the measurements. If you put them in order, fast is the lowest, then normal, then slow. Okay? So now, what I told him to do is answer question, I told him to mark out question 7A on their sheet. So you can mark out 7A, but just answer 7B. What is the relationship with how you move the chain and the wavelength when you went faster? Okay? So go ahead and answer B, and then pause the video, and then see if you get it right. All right, for 7B, let's see if I can get it on here. You should have said something about when you went faster, the wavelength got shorter, or when it's slower, the wavelength got longer. Sorry, I don't think I did that very well. Let's see if that helps. Okay. Now you're going to do a number 8. You're going to try different models. Okay. And the chain to the model that I had them do is I had them do